Welcome to Offroad X Files, where the trail meets the unknown. I'm your host, Jimmy Tungate. Tonight on Offroad X Files, we'll meet overlander and researcher Randy Silvey, who just completed an epic backcountry journey that ended in the shadow of Mount Adams. This is the Sasquatch Overland Expedition File. 9 days, hundreds of miles, 2 states, 1 mission: find evidence of Sasquatch. Although we've been friends on Facebook for a while, I first met Randy in person last Saturday during a group campout near Mount Adams. The campout was hosted by our friends from Salish Sasquatch. Randy and his crew joined us in camp on the final leg of their trip, and it was the perfect chance to swap stories around a fire pit and learn more about him. Randy lives in Lapine, Oregon. He hosts the local Sasquatch and Brew meetings and founded the Bend Bigfoot Research Group back in 2017. He's been married for almost 30 years, has 2 amazing adult daughters. Randy's interest in Sasquatch started as a kid, but he went on his first BFRO expedition back in 2016. Besides being the host of Squatch and Brew meetings, he also gives presentations at local schools on the subject. When not off-roading or squatching, Randy enjoys the outdoors, tracking, researching, learning, observing, and respecting the wilderness and habitat that it creates for all creatures. Randy's not only a great guy, but he also has an adventure worth sharing, so grab your favorite beverage, settle in, and let's have Randy fill us in on the details of his expedition. Welcome to the show, Randy.
Hey, Jimmy, thanks for having me. Holy cow. I tell you, you just blew my head up.
Nice little intro.
Thank
there,
you.
Eh?
Very nice, very gracious,
you.
and I'm very, very, very blessed to be on your show and grateful and excited to share our trip and hopefully people listening will get some excitement out of it as well.
Awesome. So back in the intro, I mentioned that you had an interest in Sasquatch as a kid, and I wanted to ask you, how did that come about, Randy?
Yeah, pretty simple. My first realization I liked or was curious about the topic was the Bionic Man. And from there on, it just kind of exploded. And shortly thereafter, just kind of did my own little research and watched shows that embraced Sasquatch or Bigfoot. And then later on, probably in the early 90s, as a kind of a gag joke, my wife's grandmother, who lived in Portland, in Aloha, she was kind enough to gift me a membership to Western Bigfoot Society, and said, "Oh, here you go, you know, I know you love Bigfoot," and so that's where it really took off.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to my first meeting there in St. John's with Ray Crow, and sitting at the table there, there was these gentlemen talking about recent sightings and castings, and I remember a gentleman with a English or British accent talking about how he has a helicopter and he does research on that east side of Hood. And I'm like, "Oh, that's really great." He goes, "Yeah, I'd love for you to come along with me sometime, Randy." I go, "Oh, that's really great." And so what's so funny is I went to several of these meetings and find my wife, "How'd it go?" Like, "Oh, that gentleman invited me on his helicopter to show me the backside of Hood," and had no idea who it was, and come to find out, Peter Byrne.
Oh, yeah.
yeah. Peter Byrne, Larry Lund was there, so it was cool. But
Very cool.
That was the beginning. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, I remember that episode of The Bionic Man with Andre the Giant. That's what it was. It was iconic. Yeah.
I was so scared that I was intrigued.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Yep.
So I don't know your age exactly, and I'm not going to ask you, but did you go see The Legend of Boggy Creek as a kid?
I did not until later in my life. No.
Cool.
No.
I had the opportunity to see it at a drive-in theater in the back of a truck.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I think I'm 53.
Okay.
So, yeah, so I don't care if people know my age. It is what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I turned 60 this year, so.
Hey, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I know how it feels.
Yeah, that's cool.
So how did you get into overlanding, Randy?
Well, so kind of by accident, to be honest. I do have a little Jeep Wrangler that I bought just for research, and it gets me in and out of where I need to go in tight places. And I started throwing a tent in it. And last year, I think a buddy and I just threw some tents in it, some chairs, a little bit of firewood, and started exploring around the Oak Ridge area. And what happened this year was my buddies were invited on a BDR trip, and they do several of them. This trip fell through, and they looked at me and said, "Hey, we still want to go do overlanding." And I said, "Oh, very cool. And we'd like for you to come along and maybe show us some interesting spots regarding Sasquatch." And both of these gentlemen are highly curious about the topic. Cool. And I said, "Well, I would love that." And I said, "Well, let's make it kind of a hybrid overlanding Squatch trip." And so this was my very first trip overlanding per se, and really, really enjoyed it. It was we just kind of gathered some ideas together. We knew we wanted to be in the Triangle area, meaning Triangle being, Rainier, St. Helens, and Adams. And then I just kind of manually overlaid Bigfoot mapping with Onyx that I have. And Onyx is my Bible, so to speak. I have all my information on it, and I'm slowly now putting it into a spreadsheet. But did that, and we came up with places that we wanted to hit in 8 or 9 days. And most of those we weren't expecting an experience, but we wanted to explore areas where there have been experiences. And so most of those days were one-nighters, packing light, but still eating great food. Yeah. And exploring my dream area. And I've always wanted to hit the Gifford Pinchot and Mount Adams and Bumping Lake. These were always so dreamy. I hear so much about them. I see all the YouTube and all the podcasts. And so we quickly kind of put together a plan. Actually, it's been months of putting it together and did it. So to be honest, this is my very first overlandish type of trip. Searching for Sasquatch, which I thought was a brilliant idea, and I still do. I think that might be a new thing. But yeah, that's how I got into it. It was just now. That was my first real trip.
Oh, nice. Did you have to do any modifications to your Jeep, or have you done any modifications to your Jeep to help you get out and Squatch?
Yeah, great question. So my personal Jeep was not on this trip, and I haven't done much to it, to be honest. It's got a small lift. It's got a winch on it, which I use often. But I pack really light in order to get into really difficult areas. So if it doesn't fit in the Jeep, I don't take it. So I'm talking tent, axe, recovery gear, jet boil, a small cooler, the very basics, a tarp, of course, just a little bit of utensils. A little bit of gear, meaning, take audio or FLIR. But I'm not a big tech guy either. I like tech, but I don't use it a lot when tracking. So I take the Jeep personally on most weekends, and I go tracking and exploring my own area or new areas, just learning more about the area locally as far as geography, ecology, habitat, where the animal's going. People say, "Oh, you're a Bigfoot hunter." No, I like tracking, because if I'm tracking animals, that tells me where the apex creatures or predators are. Right. So I really enjoy just tracking, and that helps me get to where I want to go. So my Jeep did not go on this trip that I just came off of. We ended up I rode with my buddy who has a Toyota Tacoma with a 6-inch lift, and then a custom canopy that we were able to still store all the gear in. And then the other buddy, he had a Jeep, oh my gosh, it's a truck, Comanche, Gladiator, thank you. And that was more outfitted, and he still has a dream list for it. So not heavy equipped overlanding vehicles. I think all of us are new to it and are almost, not a lot of fancy gear. And I think that's almost to the point, like, it doesn't take a lot of money and gear to just go overlanding and enjoy nature off the road, off the beaten path where people don't go. Amen. Just make sure you've got recovery gear, some first aid, some basic survival, and go with a buddy and take your vehicle and go have a great time. You know, I did go to the overlanding show here at Redmond. We had a great time, and my golly, you could spend thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on gear that you may really never use, and then you feel resentful, you know, if you don't get to use it, you know. And so I think sometimes, for me especially, I like to simplify. Just get out in the woods, for crying out loud. Take your basics, be safe, and go enjoy it. You know, and we put tents on the ground. Neither of us have a rooftop, so it's tents on the ground, which in most of our cases almost worked out better because we're on unlevel ground a lot of the time. So being able to find a spot 20 feet away that was flat for a tent, you know, was great. So that was our methodology on this trip.
Awesome. I think this is probably a really good spot to talk about something that happened recently when we're talking about safety and being safe and being properly geared. It was just announced a few days ago, back on August 7th, that Stacy and Matthew from Toyota World Runners were tragically killed in an overlanding accident. And I just wanted to take a minute to remember them and talk a little bit about them and what they did. So they started Toyota World Runners YouTube channel back in early 2020. And over the years, they documented creative overlanding content, logging extensive travels, building a unique RV that's dubbed the world's first Land Cruiser Chinook. They used a 1970s Chinook camper body on a Land Cruiser chassis. And their adventurous spirit took them across the Americas, including a Pan-American road trip. They explored remote regions of South America. Their journey included unforgettable moments like a proposal captured on film in April 2024 as Matthew asked Stacy to marry him during their epic travels. And they had amassed a following of over 200,000 YouTube subscribers and nearly 74,000 Instagram followers, earning widespread admiration for their authenticity, their creativity, their inspiring storytelling, and they'll be missed. Rest in peace, Stacy and Matthew. So,
amen.
I want to go back now and ask you a couple questions before we kind of move along. You mentioned recovery gear. What kind of recovery gear do you usually carry?
You know, pretty basic. Obviously, I have traction boards, and then I have snatch blocks, different lengths of the straps. I also carry a small shovel. That pretty much completes it. I take a jump box in case the vehicle has a dead battery, small toolkit.
Good idea.
Obviously, yeah, spare tire materials or tools, I should say. But as far as the Jeep, I've got to keep it really, really simple. And so those are the items I take. And I used the heck out of my winch. When I bought the Jeep, I removed the cable and put the nylon on it. It was the best thing I ever did.
Oh, yeah.
And then I've got the bull rings on the back. I got the EMF bumpers. And so super incredibly handy. I never thought I'd need a winch, and that thing has saved me more times. You know, a lot of early spring, we'll go out and do some early tracking, and some of the roads still have, 3 or 4 foot snow drifts on them, and so you're constantly pulling each other out just to get through a snow drift back into the mud, and extremely handy. So if you don't have one, and my buddy who I rode with in the Tacoma on this trip, he does not have one. I said, man, I'm telling you, I'm not saying to put one on to be cool. I'm saying put one on to save yourself.
Oh, yeah.
To save yourself, right? Because you may not have someone with you. So, so that's what I have on my personal Jeep.
Well, I'll tell you what happened to me. So I have an Ironman 9,500 pound synthetic winch on the front of my 4Runner on a custom Ironman bumper. And I'd had it a week. And me and a buddy were up about probably 40 miles from Canada in the North Cascades, being dumb butts, and up on the side of a mountain in the snow. But it was like wet snow, and underneath it was a lot of ice. So
unforgiving.
Oh yeah, we're at about 6,500 feet, and I'm coming around a bend, and it's a sheer drop off on the passenger side, so I'm tending to hug the inside, and I got sucked into the ditch. And if he hadn't been there, I would not have been able to get out. But we took my winch. He was able to turn around. We hooked my winch up to his front bumper, and I was able to winch myself out. And I told my wife when I got home, like, the winch paid for itself today. So
Right there.
and then I've used it a bunch of times since. If you are out in the backcountry and you have the equipment to mount it on, highly recommend getting a winch, because not only can you save yourself, you can save other people too.
Absolutely. I have a buddy at work. He runs hounds, and he has a Chevy Colorado, and he got himself in a predicament. But what's unique about his Chevy Colorado is he was by himself, and he slid off a snow-covered bank in his truck. He has a receiver on the front of his truck where the winch is hooked in, and so he unhooked the winch from the front bumper, walked it up, put it in the receiver of the rear bumper.
Yep.
And ran his winch to a tree and pulled himself right out. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's mind blowing.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I've seen a few rigs set up like that. You can definitely get yourself out of any situation with that in a tree strap.
Yeah. You got that right.
So you had mentioned when you were kind of setting up this trip that you'd pick kind of a general location, the triangle between Mount Rainier, St. Helens, and Adams. How did you pick the general route that you were going to take, and like, where did you start? Because you started in Oregon, correct? Okay,
correct.
So where did you start in Oregon, and how did you go about planning the trip? Did you use Route Builder and Onyx to help build it?
No.
And then add do you know about that?
I do now.
Okay.
I should have. No.
So,
in
in case you didn't know, I'm a trail guide for Onyx Off-Road and also an ambassador. So I know a thing or two about the application. And one of the really great features that would have been really helpful for you would be to use Route Builder. So figure out the route that you're going to take, and then you can build legs of the route. If you have a general idea of where you want to camp, you can put in pins for where your campground's going to be. And then the super cool thing, Randy, is once you get it all built, you can hit navigate, and it will give you turn-by-turn directions, even when you're off-road and even when you're offline, if you have the map downloaded. So you don't have to watch your map while you're driving. It'll continue to give you turn-by-turn navigations.
Oh, my
So this isn't a commercial or anything like that. But I think people would find it very helpful if they are not familiar with that feature to be able to plan a trip like this. But I'm sorry, I digress.
My gosh.
Go ahead, and I want to hear how you did this.
That was great. I wish I had talked to you before this trip. So no, I guess we did it like really primitive, old school. I literally, first of all, I looked at the triangle. And then I started pulling information from Bigfoot Mapping Project, pointed out some spots, looked at the roads, and then said, okay, let's try to hit these roads and these sites or spots in order, and we'll just see where it takes us. So we really freestyled it. It was really unscripted, which actually I think was more fun. The route builder would be perfect, but we just even went off our own route, and we went and smelled the daisies, right? We drove down to a creek, stopped at a lake. Nice. And there was literally days where we just would shoot up a spur road. Like, where's that go? It looks amazing on Onyx, right? Yeah. So we spend 2 hours going up a spur road and find this beautiful landing with a fire pit. Like, oh my gosh, okay, ping that for later, right?
Right.
So we were, I know when my buddies do BDR, it's very schedule intensive, and this was not. We literally just smelled the roses and the daisies and looked at the trees and stopped here and stopped there, and so the route builder would have been extremely helpful as far as like getting a destination lined out without having to look at it nonstop. And so what we did is, again, I just took the information from Bigfoot Mapping Project, top 7 spots, 5 spots. We're gonna hit those. And to answer your question, our very first stop when we left Bend Sun River was Friday night. It was the east side of Hood on Highway 35, Pocket Creek Trailhead Road. And we just started climbing elevation, and we hit the dirt road, and we just climbed and climbed and climbed, literally looking at the Onyx for landings, viewpoints. And our first spot was freaking over the top, beautiful. And the spot it overlooks, you can just look over the cliff and you've got Mount Hood in your face.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, absolutely 5 stars. And that spot is Pocket Creek Trailhead, if anyone's curious about it, off of 35, I think, heading up to Hood River.
So was that, sorry to interrupt there, was that just a stopover location, or had there been a sighting marked there on the Bigfoot mapping project?
Yeah. So Badger Lake is what I really wanted to get to.
Okay.
And it was more out of the way and not exactly what I was thinking. So if I can get somewhere on the east side of Hood, I told my buddy that would be great. And so we did. So we went past Badger Lake, and that's where we dropped into Pocket Creek Trailhead, Forest Service Road, and then climbed and climbed. Thick forest, beautiful, luscious. I mean, not a single person. I think we saw one group early on in the trip, and then after that, it was all ours. And then, once we got there, it was late, so we just snacked, had a couple of beers, I set up the audio, and we went to bed. And then got up the next morning, and our next spot was Hood River. And we met our second buddy with his Jeep there. And from there, we beelined it up to Bumping Lake, because I've heard so much about Bumping Lake. In fact, I even made fun of it a lot of time. I called it Hoaxing Lake, but I wanted to go check it out for myself, and I'm really, really glad I did. So our very first stop was Bumping Lake after leaving Hood River, and a little spot, and it beautiful weather, mild, and we found this beautiful spot off the highway near Kettle Creek. And I knew it was going to be a hopeful spot because there was deer sign, fresh elk sign. I'm like, and of course there were some huckleberries. And so I knew the wildlife was there, and that was going to be hopefully prosperous. And coming to find out, I'm still going through my audio, but I clearly heard an evening tree knock. Something hit our aluminum table in the middle of the night, and then a early morning tree knock. And so that was a great spot. So that was.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I camped Bumping Lake with my buddy Austin, who lives down in Oregon, but we camp together a lot. We went out to Bumping Lake last October. I think it was around the 15th. It was a few days before the campgrounds close out there. And he said that he heard something messing with his table during the night at our campsite. Really? So you saying that kind of triggered that memory that, Austin had told me that he heard something that woke him up messing with the table. It could have been a raccoon, who knows?
For sure.
But 200%. It's interesting, the correlation between something messing with a table where you stayed and also where we stayed. But Bumping Lake is probably one of the better known squatchy spots in Washington State that has pretty easy access to get to. I mean, it's just off of Forest Service Road. I've driven and mapped a whole bunch of trails back up on the east side of Bumping Lake, all the way back up to Lily Lake, and flew my drone back up in there because my daughter's name is Lily, and I wanted to get pictures of Lily Lake for her. The horse camps, I've been way back up in there. So did y'all just stick to the Kettle area, or and then did you get anything else besides a tree knock?
No, it was the evening tree knock, which is crazy. My buddy, two of us went to bed, and the gentleman with the Jeep. He was kind of, you could tell, I could hear him in his tent on the audio, and he's kind of, you hear the tent zip up, and is that classic, once the tent zipped up, crack, and it came.
I'm telling you, that's when it starts. As soon as you go in your tent, right? It's happened to me multiple times now. You zip up and you get in there, and that's when the crazy stuff starts to happen. Okay, so you got a tree knock, and I don't know if you want to kind of talk about who you were with. Feel free to mention their names if you want to, if they're comfortable with it or not. I'll leave that up to you.
Yeah, one of them, he does not wish to have his name disclosed, but really, really, really great guy, very experienced in off-roading, and he's even a SAR volunteer.
Right.
So very
I know who you're talking about, but we'll keep him anonymous.
I know. Absolutely. And then my other buddy's Rodney Edwards.
Okay.
And so he was the one with the Tacoma that you met, and he loved your gear. So those are the three guys I was with. I rode with Rodney in the Tacoma, and then the other gentleman just had his Jeep, and he drove behind us most of the time. But after the gentleman with the Jeep truck went to bed, that's when the first knock, and then probably around midnight, I clearly hit something. We had one of those aluminum folding tables, and we had, I think, some hydro flask sitting on it, and it hit it, and you can hear the hydro flask like vibrate, like clink. So it could have been a pine cone, it could have been beer, it could have been an elk, right? So, but it was pretty forceful, but I didn't put a lot of weight into it. What got me was the next morning, that the gentleman with the Jeep got up in the morning to use the restroom, and the classic zip, and then he went in his Jeep to grab something, and he shut the door and walked away, and then another knock from behind us towards the highway, and so that was really cool. We packed up about mid-morning, about 9 o'clock, had some coffee and a little bit of breakfast. Some pre-made breakfast burritos. Rodney and his wife did an assembly line before we left of breakfast burritos, and then refrigerated them all. Yeah, so all we had to do was heat them up and fry them. He did, and we had one morning with bacon breakfast burritos, and the other one with sausage, and he would put them in a pan of butter just to kind of crisp them up. Oh my God,
you're getting me hungry, man. He was telling me about how he made those, how he steamed them, and I was like, I was getting hungry then too.
I know, and then put a little bit of your Taco Bell sauce on it, and it was a game changer.
Woo.
So we left camp and then continued around into Bumping Lake Campground, and then, as you well know, it turns into dirt. A lot of vehicles, and it didn't look it wasn't the geography we're looking for. It was dry and pines. And so we just kept driving. We veered off a little bit, but we just followed the road all the way to the very end, which you're probably very familiar with, on the east side, and that was the Swampy Lake trailhead.
Yeah.
Stopped there, had lunch, and then it was getting to the point where we're like, okay, we need to kind of hone in on something. And so we kind of backtracked up that road, which is really narrow and kind of rough, but it was super fun. And we found a really great site going up that road. It would be on your left-hand side. And it is on Granite Creek, and beautiful, oh my golly, site. You're underneath the canopy of all the pines.
Yeah.
Pretty open. And Granite Creek was just a beautiful, nice sized creek, even with a swimming lagoon that I found. A nice lagoon where you could jump in and swim and clean up if you wanted. We did a night hike or evening hike there and found some really interesting tree structures. And I'm new at that. I've always been hesitant, but what we found on this trip, and there's a picture of me laying on one. It is clearly not made by humans, and it was a blind of some sort made by something using, 20 to 30 foot trees, and they were leaned up against a fallen tree, and then large pieces of unbroken bark up to 18 inches wide, up to 3 or 4 feet long, layered on top of these trees to create a little bit of a shelter. And all of the trees and the sticks were broken off, not sawed off. It was very intricate, and over time it collapsed and was now laying on the ground. And my buddy Rodney, we're hiking, and he's like, "Oh, look at this I got to walk around this stupid thing." I'm like, "No, stop! That's not a stupid thing. That's actually really, really
Right.
cool." And so we stood there for about 10, 15 minutes, just admiring the craftsmanship that this thing or whatever took to build it. Absolutely intricate, woven in and out. With different size of limbs, twigs, trees, and bark. That was very significant. It takes a lot to get me excited, and that one was very, very impressive. I found, I think, a slight tree knock that evening on my audio, very faint, and it came from the I'm looking at Bumping Lake right now, and so we're on the east side of Bumping Lake, so it came from the east side of me up closer to that dirt road, and so faint but clearly a knock. So Bumping Lake, I can't say it's hoaxing lake. I'm pretty sold that there's some great things happening there, and the audio kind of proved it to me. Okay. And again, this spot next to Granite Lake was so private. I think we heard one car go by while we were there the entire time. Nice. So I marked it as a spot to go to because it's just so dang beautiful. And hiking wise, it looks fairly close to the lake, but a little bit challenging. And that's the only reason when I go on hikes, I always tell people I like to go off trail. That's when you find really great things, clues of what's living out there, and how things are surviving. So I love going off trail. It tells more of a story for me.
I want to circle back to the tree structure.
Yeah.
So you said it had like up to 20-foot trees. Can you like describe what this? So I have a series of questions for you. One is, can you describe like what the circumference of it was? Was it large enough for a big creature like a Sasquatch to get into? And then my second question is, Randy, why do you think they built them? You mentioned a blind. Do you think it was using it for ambush hunting, or what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. I do believe it's for ambush hunting. Because it was facing Granite Creek. You're probably within, 100 yards or 80 yards from Granite Creek from the structure. And the structure was up the bank, a slight grade. And so the structure was facing downhill towards the creek in a very remote covered area. The structure, when we found it and still there, is laying flat on the ground. But it's kind of like we have a framed wall still laying on the ground, and you're still trying to finish framing it before you raise it. That's what it looks like now. It is laying on the ground, but it has all the features still attached, including the bark. And then, not only is there probably a dozen to 15 tree branches going vertically, you have twice as many going horizontally, and then it's layered with massive, massive pieces of bark that something pulled off the tree in one piece and laid it on that structure. So at one point, that structure was not on the ground. It was actually tilted up. Right. And the tree that was originally holding it up snapped. And so the whole thing fell down onto the ground. And those the trees that were the branches that were 20 or 30 feet up holding the main structure in a vertical position, those were anywhere, I'd say, from 2 to 6 inches in diameter, and parallel vertically, several of them, and then something layered the branches going horizontally, smaller in diameter, even vines, small enough to be vines, and then the bark over all of that. So really, really interesting find. I always try to break it down, try to be unbiased. Like, okay, if a human did this, how did they drag these trees over and lean them up on this on this huge tree to make a shelter. Like, I mean, humans are crafty, but dadgummit, we're lazy, right? And I'm a victim of it too, man. And so this took a lot of manual labor, a lot of forethought. We did find a man-made structure not far away, and there was a fire pit, and there were sawed off trees and stuff, and that was purposely made, like someone's doing some bushcraft. But this was not that at all. So who knows? I mean, but it struck my curiosity, and it's not the first time I found something like that. I found something like that in Cottage Grove at the Al Moon Lab.
Okay.
Doing the same dang thing, just going off trail where everyone was up on trail, and I ran across this beautiful thing that something built on the side of the hill next to a creek. So when you see a creek, it's worth the effort to freestyle it and go alongside the creek. You're going to find some great things.
Yeah, I definitely think that they tend to hang around water and travel through waterways, etc.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you get pictures of it?
I did.
Okay.
And I think one of them, hopefully it made it to you. You can see me laying on it.
Okay.
I was trying not to disturb it, but I'm laying on top of it.
Okay. So I'll, for the folks that are listening, I'm going to create a blog on the website as a companion to this episode with pictures and things like that to go along with the story to help you out with visuals. Okay. Great. So Bumping Lake, found a tree structure, and then we're going to move along to the next part of it, but I wanted to ask you, kind of as we're doing that, did you try to structure the day beforehand, like when you were planning this, on how much time you would spend doing certain things, or was it just kind of ad hoc?
Ad hoc.
Okay.
We just knew that our next destination was Council Lake.
Okay.
So next spot was Council Lake based on interesting reports there. And so we got up in the morning and said, okay, let's head to Council Lake. How long is that going to take? Don't know. Probably not very long. And
what
so
kind of
we
reports?
packed up. I believe it's vocal, most of it. And I think there was a sighting there as well. And I kind of, before I went on trip, I kind of Google Earthed it, saying, okay, does it look like the right terrain? Does it have the right cover? There's water there. And it's very remote. It's a very small lake with a very small campground that looks like not many people go to. I'm like, okay, that's the area I want to go to. So it's a great spot. And again, it's in the triangle, so I can't really screw that up.
Yeah.
So we did venture to Council Lake, pulled up to the lake, absolutely stunning, beautiful, extremely windy. It was cold, and the campground was rough, meaning really primitive, kind of washed out. There was one family there, and we didn't want to be around people. So we took some pictures, used the restroom, and then we got back on our rigs and then pulled up the Onyx and said, okay, where are we going from here? So we did catch a little piece of the BDR, and we went above Council Lake to an old logging road, a spur road, and found a great little spot. Not the prettiest, but we were getting tired, and so we made that home for the night. And that spot was really uneventful. Not the prettiest, but that was night number 4. I just started journaling. So I journaled each night. Okay. Thank God, because I'm old and forgetful. So I'm able to look back and look at my notes, and it was cool and breezy and cloudy. I'm just looking at my notes. I set audio up at 8:30 north of camp. Had sloppy joes that night for dinner. And it was pretty quiet. So and that was just northwest of Council Lake on a Forest Service road.
Okay.
And I can break that down if you want, or move on to the next night. The next night was way more beautiful. Next night we headed over to Mount St. Helens, went up towards Swift Creek, up to Ape Canyon.
Know where that is.
Yeah. Oh my golly. And we we drove up to a really, really great spot where it was it was a clearing at the base of St. Helens. So we went all the way up to the trailhead of Ape Canyon, and then kind of migrated back down just a little bit, and kind of looking at Onyx, and it's 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I'm looking to my left and I see a clearing, and then I see Onyx. And so we drove down this dirt road through a clearing, and at the end of the clearing was forest and berries and a creek, and Swift Creek. Nice. And we camped there, and you get out of the tent, and the first thing you see is your whole view is Mount St. Helens.
Wow.
Absolutely freaking stunning.
Yeah, epic.
Beautiful spot. Yeah. And so there, same thing. We saw some great wildlife. I saw a deer using some night vision. We saw a bull elk. We saw a cow elk. We saw some calves, all in the clearing. Mm-hmm. So I knew I was in the right spot. But one night wasn't going to get us there. It'd be a 2-nighter, only because I knew that the food, the water was there. There's wildlife there. And so I would have loved to stay the second night. Audio came up empty. It did start raining at 11:30 p.m., and it rained heavy all the way until we broke camp in the morning.
There's nothing better to run audio than rain. Rain and wind.
My two favorites.
The drip, 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 drip. Splatter, splatter, splatter. Yeah. Oh, frustrating.
Yeah. And my little Zoom is sitting out there on the stump, just getting hammered with rain. But it survived. But that was a great spot. I don't know if you've been up there, but I highly recommend it. Really beautiful.
Haven't been to that spot. I've been to Ape Canyon and kind of in the vicinity, but I'll get the pin from you and go check it out.
Oh, absolutely. I'm happy to share it. I'll share everything. Only, what is open to the public, and the private stuff I don't. From there, we packed up next morning with all our wet gear, and we went down to Cedar Flats. Okay. And walked the Cedar Flat Park, the trees. So I highly recommend it if you can. We did a quick hike through Cedar Flats. And it's a beautiful, beautiful forest of these cedar trees that are the size of semi-trucks. Absolutely beautiful. No one was there. We're the only ones walking through the park. I think it was maybe 1.5 miles, 2 miles. Wow. And you walk in that forest, and I'm not kidding you, Jimmy, it is such an eerie feeling. It's dead silent. Yeah. And it's lush, and it's green, and it's got this just really eerie feeling about it. I highly recommend it. If you guys in that area, stop at Cedar Flats and walk the 1 mile trail through the old growth cedar. Over the top, beautiful.
You heard him, folks. Get out there and walk it.
Oh man, and no one was there. Of course, I think this was a Tuesday. Our next stop, real quick, was the Eagle Cliff store there, and made a quick stop there, and then went over to our buddy's house in Cougar. Was in Cougar for a little bit. Oh, nice. And he's got the gentleman with the Jeep. He's got a beautiful home there with a view of St. Helens and Adams, and right over Swift Reservoir, looking at the Eagle Cliffs themselves. So cool second home that he's building. But from there's
a lot of Squatch reports around Cougar.
I know. I'm like, oh man, he's got this great place and just prime. And he goes, I know, I'm so excited. So we wrapped up that day and headed up to Trout Creek, headed up to Indian Heaven, as we all know. And we found this beautiful remote site not far from Trout Lake Snow Park. It was probably one of my favorite spots. Again, old growth trees. Once we set camp up, beautiful cover. It's an old abandoned hunting camp, it looks like. And I mean, it's pretty overgrown. Like the vehicle's got pinstriped going in there, but man, it was worth it, because once you got through the pinstriping, it just opened up, and you see a little fire ring there. And then below the canopy of all the pines was just lush huckleberries, and I mean fat huckleberries everywhere. So we set up audio there. We did a night hike there. Had a pretty eerie feeling. Like I felt even the gentleman had golden doodle with him, and
Yeah.
we went for a night hike, and the golden doodle was didn't bark, but was struck like by default, turned around and pulled the leash to go back to camp. And so it had that spook feeling to it. And I don't consider it spooky. I just think that we were being watched and observed. Right. And I always tell people that the first night really doesn't produce anything. If it does, you're lucky. The first night is them observing you. Based on your intent, then you might have an experience on night number 2. In my experience, that's what's happened. But this spot, man, I'll tell you, I can sink to the pin to it. Absolutely over the top, beautiful, quiet, remote, and just shoot. Yeah. So I made blueberry pancakes, huckleberry pancakes. Yeah. Picked them right out the bush and put them in the batter and had them for breakfast.
Did you get any of the huckleberry? I can't remember if you were in camp the morning we had fresh huckleberry pancakes.
I did.
Yeah, those were great.
I got a couple. They were so good. And then I put a piece of the, I think it was blackberry pie right next to the pancakes. Oh, yeah.
That's the one that Rachel made. Good stuff.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Holy cow. And so then I think Janice brought the...
Yeah. They were saying that in town, at Trout Lake in town at the merchandise store, when I went in there too and I saw it, they were selling huckleberry pies for like $59.
They were. I'm like, you know what?
I bet they sell them.
I know. I'm like, it'd be so great to take. I saw the pie. I'm like, I'll take a pie up to camp to share. And I walked up to him like, is that the date?
Right.
Really old? Or holy cow, I couldn't do it. Yeah, we did stop in there as well. Yeah, great spot. But yeah, continued on. So that was a beautiful spot, and then from that spot,
was that night 6?
We went up. It was. Okay. You got it. Yep.
Tracking along. Okay, and so then, night 6.
Yeah.
And then you went to the next spot.
Yeah, and next spot was the 2 nights was Salish.
Okay.
Yeah. So 8 nights. Before
we move ahead, I have a question for you. Where you were camped, you said it was in an old grove with a lot of really big trees. Did you have any problems finding a place to deploy your audio recorder? Normally we'll strap them to a tree or lay them on a log or what. So I guess that brings me to a question that I'm curious about is researchers have different ways of deploying equipment. When you're deploying your recorders, how do you do that?
Pretty basic. I start it. I give the date, time, and then location, and that is it. And I put it, usually I like to put it out on a stump. Most of the time it was a stump. If we were near a creek, a couple times we were near a creek, I put it on top of the car, on top of the Tacoma, because I want to get more of the in-camp noise than the creek noise. So, but to answer your question, most of the time it's on a stump, and like you, I've been really lucky. I just kind of wedge it in there. Okay. I think one time we had quite a bit of wind, and I used a sock to help. I don't have the little muff for my Zoom, so I did a redneck style sock over it, and that helped.
That's a good idea. I
deflect the stupid wind.
A couple weeks ago, I was camping down around Sweet Home, Oregon, and I just recently got this Tascam 7DX, and I didn't have a wind muff for it yet, and so I'm listening to the audio a couple days later, and about 1 o'clock in the morning, I start hearing this kind of rhythmic thumping sound, but it wasn't making any sense. And so I call my wife over after listening to this, go on for a while. I'm like, what the hell is this sound? She's like, I think it's the wind. I'm like, duh, it's the wind. I didn't have a wind sock on it. So I ordered one from Amazon. It was here the next morning, and it was ready for this next trip. But it's super annoying to have what could potentially be good audio disrupted by environmental conditions. So thank you for the reminder on that. and for the suggestion on how to be resourceful. If you don't
Yes.
have one, you could always put a dirty sock or a clean sock on it and maybe accomplish the same thing.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what I did. And that helped dramatically. So,
Okay.
And then, like I said, the next 2 nights were Salish. Great time. I do remember, I think it was between Camp 5 and 6, we went down to Packwood.
Mm-hmm.
And I was on our way to, I forgot what direction we're going, and stopped in Packwood. It's a great little town. Stopped there at the brewery and had a beer.
Longmire.
But other than that, yeah, it was.
Yeah. I might have stopped in there once or twice.
Once or twice. So, yeah, I heard it from a friend. Yeah.
No, that's where they, back in April, I went there to the brewery because they had the Packwood Town Hall.
Yeah.
And I went down and met up with the Flash of Beauty folks and recorded an episode with them. Great experience. Y'all can check that out.
Your story
on
was
my
great.
Website. Oh, thank you.
Very well done.
But yeah, Packwood is a very cool little town. Great place to stop. There's so many places to go overlanding in that area. Last winter around December, me and some friends went up to Chambers Lake in the snow and camped and got like 1.5 feet of snow overnight. And it was just amazeballs. But I digress. This is your story, not mine.
No, not at all. I love it.
I went to Packwood, went to Longmire, and then we'll pick up from there.
No, yeah, that's great. Yeah, so one of my spots we were trying to get to is a little tiny lake near Packwood Lake, and because there was some interesting stuff there, and it was a 3-hour journey in there, and it was 4:00, and I'm like, man, we're just cutting it too close. So we did an audible and went. That's where we went sooner to. I think it was St. Helens, and that worked out just fine. But yeah, so that was so that was 9 days of just having a blast, freestyle, unstructured. Stopped and smelled the roses when we could. Stopped at a store. Stopped at a brewery, or stopped at Cedar Flats to check out the old growth cedars. We stopped at Swift Creek Reservoir and the river running into it, and just tried to really enjoy the Gifford. I've heard so much about it, and so I really wanted to absorb it and not drive through it. I wanted to drive into it,
right?
If that makes sense. And I think we did a great job with it. It was 9 days or 8 days of 8 or 9 days of no shower, and most of it was no. I think I had 7 minutes of cell service, which was absolutely incredible. I do carry an InReach with me, a Garmin InReach. So I sent out a couple of quick texts to my wife. I think 3 total, just so she knew I was alive. And
send her a pin with where you're at. I'm okay, honey.
Yeah.
I do the same
That's
thing.
the only way she lets me go. Yeah. Especially if I go out alone. I cannot go out without the InReach. And it was.
I'll get messages from my wife. Are you alive? Yes, honey. I'm sorry. I get carried away with taking pictures and doing all the things associated with camping, and I just lose track of time. But my wife knows better. In fact, I'm the other way around. Honey, I'm still alive. So just so I'm tracking along with the story correctly. So I met you on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And then you went from where we were camped to Packwood after that. Is that correct? Or did you go to Packwood and then come back?
Before. Yeah, I went to Packwood and then came back.
Okay, perfect.
Yep.
That is a really cool drive. I drove in from Packwood to that camp and then drove back out, kind of taking a different route, but along the same lines. Okay.
Yeah, either way, it is absolutely, that's just beautiful country. And then we did go further up before we went to our Trout Lake location. We did go further up into Indian Heaven, and that was all brand new to me. Mm-hmm. Seeing the signs, we stopped at Mosquito Lake, of course, but seeing the signs that it was designated for natives and for harvesting was absolutely fascinating. Yeah. And so we found a few spots where we wanted to camp, but we didn't feel very welcomed, and that was fine. It wasn't our time, right? It's their time to harvest, and
Right.
and this was, this is their spot, and so we chose not to be anywhere around where they're harvesting. So we went further down into that really pretty forest area I was telling you about.
Nice.
And that's where we ended up staying. But yeah, incredible, absolutely incredible.
I found a footprint down the road from where y'all were camped after y'all left.
Right. I sent that to you.
No, I found another one.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah. So, and I'll send the video to you, and I'll be posting the video eventually. But
oh, great.
Tyler Kennedy
Exciting.
showed up at camp, and it was great to see him. But me, Tyler Kennedy, Nick Bell, and your buddy Steve Edwards and my buddy, we all went for a walk down that road and kind of did some off-trail stuff and came across a footprint in some really soft material. Tyler measured it, and it measured out to be, I think, 15 inches, and then it was 6 or 7 inches across.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting. I'm going to say it was an interesting print. The next print had stepped over a down tree, a log. And then it looked like maybe it had gone down a log and then jumped down into like a little gap. But it was really hard to tell. And I'm really hesitant to say that it's anything beyond an interesting footprint because of all the rain they had there on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday morning. They had torrential downpours. So any toes or anything that may have been there is long gone. But I thought it was really interesting. Just down the road from where y'all were camped, I found another footprint beyond the one that you found.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it on the left? If you're going down that road, was it on the left side or right side?
It was on the right.
Okay.
It was on the right.
Gotcha.
There was a pullout.
Gotcha.
So there was a little pullout that was really uneven that we walked up into to see, like, is this a camp area? And everybody was kind of looking at that, and I looked over in this where I saw soft material. I always check there out of habit.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I'm like, hey guys, come check this out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'll chalk it up to interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're like me. I think the more you do this, the more cautious you get. And I call it footprint fever. So you got to be really careful. And even the one I sent to you, I would almost call an interesting impression. So that's interesting that you may have found another one. Was it closer to that where that washout is?
No.
Okay, further up. Okay. Yeah, interesting.
Everything is not Sasquatch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Right. It's easy to get excited.
Yeah.
Especially in an area like that. And so I'm way more cautious. It takes a lot for me to get excited, but I did get excited a couple times there. And one was the vocalization that we heard down at our camp in banishment camp. And then I had a really great.
So tell me about that.
Say great.
When was that one? Because I also heard a vocalization while I was there.
Okay. I'm not sure if I have it in my notes. So I think I have it my recorder was not on because it's still late afternoon. It was like 4:30. And we heard, it sounded like a female calling or yelling from the ravine, and as it yelled, it ended in a whoop or almost like a hoot. And to the point where I thought it was you. It might have been Steve Edwards who walked down to our camp and said, "Did you hear that?" And we said, "Yes, we did." So the upper camp heard it as well. It was very loud. It wasn't like faint or you were guessing like, "Oh, I think that was a call." No, it was absolutely to the point where I'm like, "Oh, they must have sent a young lady or girl down there to do a call, and she's just having fun." But it sounded like a scream, yell, call, definitely female. And then it ended into either a whoop or a hoot. And three of us were sitting in our chairs, and we all went, "Holy crap!" That was really cool.
So,
and we were
interesting. I also heard what I believe was a female Sasquatch. Mine was at 11:19 p.m. I was up in my rooftop tent, and I heard very clear, distinct, loud, and strong "ah."
oh.
And I was trying to. At first, I thought they must be doing call blasting. It sounds too perfect, and I'm hearing it with my ears, and I'm like, so I get out my phone because my recorder's over at a lake, so I didn't have it deployed. I get my phone and I record the date and time, so I have a record of it, and I know like for sure it was 11:19 p.m. And so, and I'm like, I've heard this before, so. And now I realize I've heard it two different places. One is the same thing, but it was a male at Bumping Lake on audio. And then the other one was in the Salish Sasquatch, one of their documentaries called The Cascade Encounter, where Kirk Brandenburg and Kip Morrell are walking down a dirt road. And they hear the same thing, but it's a male. But it's that same exact vocalization, the ah-ee, very kind of sing-song. So that's like three different instances of that vocalization over a span of 100 miles between, points. Or 100 miles or more. So, like, I find it really interesting that you heard what you thought was a female, and so did I. I mean, it was very evident to me that it was a female vocalization. Can I say it was Sasquatch? No. But from the direction I heard it from, so where my rig was parked, it would have been back up behind me in the woods. So from where you were camped, it would have been facing away from you and facing away from the road.
Gotcha.
But I find it incredibly interesting. Once again, that term interesting, that we both heard vocalizations and they both seem to be feminine.
200%. Yeah, it was to the point where we verbally said, "Oh, they must have sent a girl down to do a call down in the ravine."
Exactly.
Across from our camp, right? Yeah. And then I'm like, that's ridiculous. And then we were validated when someone from main camp came down to ask if we had heard it. And I just looked at my notes. It was around 6 p.m.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a few more questions to ask you before we wrap up here. So one of the things I'm curious about being an overlander and a field investigator researcher is, like, did you have any mobility challenges, any gear issues, anything that kind of made things miserable for a bit in this 9-day adventure? And then I have a couple follow-up questions.
We actually thought the trip went really, really well. There was a couple things that could have been improved upon. Yes. So, being that we're tenting on the ground, it would have been nice to have more protection from the rain. We had one pop-up canopy, so maybe a second pop-up canopy connected for a food station, or at least have a fire pit, and then an extra 1 or 2 tarps to wrap around that. So we could all have a common area that was dry.
Yeah.
So we're not sure what that looks like, but that would have been really, really great to have.
Have you seen the carnival with Steve and Marcus?
Awesome.
Yeah, that's what you need.
Exactly right.
And if you know, you know.
You got that right. That's exactly what we needed. And then we were talking about, having the gazelle like the other PMW folks have when they go out overlanding. And then you're looking at a $500 warming hut. And it's not out of the question, but when the weather's bad, it's nice to have that center area where you could warm up. The other thing was maybe a bigger you're trying to pack less, but we had one of those ammo can gas propane heaters or propane heaters.
Yeah, an Ignic.
Yeah, it
Yep.
was good, but when we were cold, it wasn't sufficient. So it was
Really?
like, okay, how can we get more heat? And so maybe the answer was taking that one and just putting it inside a more covered area might be the answer. We might have had more heat.
Oh, wow.
But we were sitting on top.
So I have one of those too. I have
Okay.
the Fire Can Elite, and I've used it like out in 2-3 feet of snow.
Okay.
And was able to stay warm. So I'm not sure what the
Okay. So
difference is.
maybe we had a performance issue, or we had an
Yeah, it
issue
could
with
be.
a valve or something. But yeah, we were sitting on top of each other a few times, trying to get a little bit
Huddling
of
up.
space. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So it
Go
sounds
ahead.
like, so my next question was going to be, was there anything you wished you had brought along but didn't? So it sounds like maybe another awning or
Mm-hmm.
two
Yep.
to have
Yeah.
more coverage. And then what's
Yep.
something that you took that you wished you hadn't, that you would have just left it at home because you either didn't use it or you didn't need it, or it didn't work?
Well, I know Rodney brought this really cool folding wood toilet seat that he
Hmm.
got at the overlanding show, and it folds flat. And then, of course, when you need to use a bag and stuff. I know
Dude,
we
those things
never
are scary.
used it. I
What if
know
it
it's supposed to hold 300
collapses?
pounds. I know, right? Yeah. So I think we were in agreement that that was more for the ladies, and we
Okay.
probably really didn't need it. And a lot of
Yeah.
time we were in a hard rock where you couldn't dig. I
Yeah.
mean, I guess that would have been good, but for us, just the old shovel method was the best. So probably didn't need that. And I hate to speak for him, but I think he would agree with me. We had enough water. I think we took 7 or 8 gallons of fresh water. So we were perfect on water. He had the refrigerator. It worked flawlessly. He had the Jackery, and it worked flawlessly, especially if we were using the solar panels. It gave it a boost before we started rigging for the next day. Um,
Oh, they had to replace
uh,
mine. Mine
oh, did
wouldn't.
you really?
Yeah, mine would not accept a charge from the solar panels. So I
Oh,
actually called them on Friday afternoon. I had my Starlink there, so I used Wi-Fi, and I called Jacker, and I'm like, "Look, I'm out in the middle of freaking nowhere, and I've got this, Solar 1000 generator, and I've got 2 panels hooked up to it, and it's not pulling anything in." And so
hmm.
we did some troubleshooting, and they sent me an email and said that, well, we're going to have to replace it. And it ended up with
Wow.
the timing they wanted to use to replace it. It would either show up when I'm not home, or it wouldn't get here in time for me to have it on my next camping trip. So actually, I bought mine at Costco within 90 days, and I took it back to Costco, and they replaced it, no questions asked. Or they just refunded me
Oh,
the
good
money, and
job.
I repurchased it, and I tested the new one out today. Solar panels work, but like I wouldn't have made it through the weekend if it hadn't have been for some friends that have 30,000 watts of power into their RV, and they let me charge up my Jackery, and I also have a DJI power station. They let me charge those, but
Gotcha.
I wouldn't have made it otherwise. Okay,
Holy cow.
so we've got
That's incredible.
the thing you wish would have left at home.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think was one thing that really made the trip successful?
Mm. Boy, couple things. And I give the credit to the other guys. They were so well prepared, and then the food was really excellently, really well planned.
Mm.
And so heating it up and preparing it, Rodney did a fantastic job of. We kind of just let him run with it, gave him money, and he did the shopping. And I think that was really key. Having one person
Yeah.
say, okay, what do menus look like? Okay, I'll get that. And then he meal prepped it. So when it came to pulling out breakfast or pulling out a meal, it wasn't cumbersome. It wasn't a chore, but it was still good. You felt like you're camping, you're having a really good cooked meal. We had fillets one night, cast iron fillets, over the freaking top,
Oh,
delicious.
wow.
So we didn't we didn't starve. We weren't eating out of mountain house. We were eating good food that was prepared thoughtfully, and easily. So it wasn't, you never, I hate to speak for him, but I don't think he ever felt like he was a slave to the kitchen. We always tried to help clean up, but it was a really quick prep, cook, done. And so that went really, really well. The other thing is we were all like-minded. None of us we were very fortunate, didn't have a character or personality conflict. We were on the same mission of let's go explore.
Yeah.
Period. Right. And so if we wanted to stay an extra day somewhere, we could have, but we didn't. We just kind of went with the flow and just explored and just took the time to really enjoy the Gifford and the beauty.
Nice.
Yeah.
What advice would you give to someone who's interested in getting into overlanding or Sasquatch research?
Boy, that's a tough one. I'm going to try to keep it simple. Oh, my gravy. So in getting into overlanding, go with a buddy who's doing it. Hop in their rig. Go do a couple of trips. That way, before you go spend your money, you can shadow someone who has the gear, who can give you the yes, do that, no, don't do that, and make sure you really like it, right?
Yeah.
So some people, that's not their jam. They want to go and sit for 7 days at some spot, which is perfect. I love doing that too. So before you spend the money, take the time, and I'm glad I did. Take the time and go with someone who's doing it currently, and see if you like it. That'd be my best advice. My second one was Bigfoot. Get out in the woods. Listen. Best piece of, and you would attest to this too, I think the best piece of equipment is audio. Yeah. I have the most luck with audio. I think the more gear I take out there, the less experiences I have. So go out in the woods, go off trail, just hike, take a friend, be safe, and set up some audio. Carry the audio with you. And then download it later. Have someone go with you or help you download it and listen, because you'd be surprised what you hear. Not just Bigfoot, Sasquatch, but the cool birds, or maybe coyote, or wind. And so start off slow. And
I can't tell you how many times I've sat here processing audio through Adobe Audition. I'm like, what in the hell is that? And go to like the Cornell audio library and start trying to figure out what the hell am I hearing. It's super cool.
And it is key. And luckily, Steve, I've been using Sonic Visualizer, which is really clunky, and so he helped me get introduced to Audacity. And so my world just changed in the last 5 days using that. And that's what's great, is get with people who are already doing it. Network and learn and shadow, and all of us. I mean, I can say almost all of us are out to help each other. And if you're not out to help someone, then don't do this. I mean, because we're all in it for the same reasons, to get out, enjoy wildlife, enjoy the nature, and maybe, explore something that people have a hard time believing exists. I love that. And do it at your own comfort level. But just get out, and whatever that looks like, go enjoy yourself, be safe. Tell someone where you're going. Make sure they know when you're coming back, and if not, they know where to find you.
Very well spoken, my friend. That wraps up this episode of Offroad X Files, where the trail meets the unknown. A huge thank you to my guest Randy Silvey for sharing his 9-day Sasquatch overlanding adventure, for giving us a window into the challenges, the discoveries, the mysteries that come with chasing cryptids in the backcountry. If there's one thing we can take away from tonight's story, it's that the search for answers often leads us to places we'd never go otherwise, both on the map and in our minds. The wilderness holds secrets, but it also rewards those willing to venture beyond the familiar with stories worth telling. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow Offroad X Files on Spotify, Amazon Podcast, and iHeartRadio. You can also connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and at offroadxfiles.com. Remember, if you've had your own encounter or experience in the wild, I'd love to hear about it. You can email me at jimmy@offroadxfiles.com. In the dark between the trees, the answers and the questions are out there. Until next time.